BJP leader L.K. Advani addresses a rally in Madurai, questions the delay on the Kudamkulam issue and urges the state to put the safety of the people first. Also striking a chord with the state, he takes up the issue of a delayed rehabilitation of displaced Tamils while calling the attacks on Indian fishermen a strategic problem. 2 major fire accidents in godowns in St. Thomas Mount and Paris. Poor access routes hinder operations. Waterlogging across the city and more rain forecast. Beware of electricity flowing through stagnant water. Brace yourself for that bout of monsoon infection. Some tips to stay healthy. The Festival of Lights give rise to a deadly cocktail of pollution estimated to be 14 times worse than normal standards this year. Students of a city college form a human chain to get their college mates and a professor medical aid after they were injured in the recent Nepal bridge collapse. Crime has been at a high too. A city head constable commits suicide at his house in Madurai. Post-mortem report is awaited. And the Chennai City Police bust the chain-snatching racket. There are some of the men who the cops say have been on the prowl. Good evening and welcome to the news tonight on NDTV Hindu. I am Evelyn Matthew joining you with all of the day's updates. A quick look at the national headlines as well. 12 infant deaths in 2 days from the BC Roy Hospital in Kolkata again. Could plain negligence have caused the recent tragedy? A week after touching the double-digit figure, food inflation rises further to 11.43%. The Congress chief in Jammu and Kashmir hits out at Omar Abdullah over the Armed Forces Special Powers Act removal. Screen actor Ronit Roy is given bail after being arrested for rash driving. 2 were injured after his car hit them. And in conversation with Michael Shumi, he says the Indian Grand Prix is one that he can't wait for. Our top story tonight at this the temple town of Madurai saw a high-profile visitor in their city today. L.K. Advani tried to strike a chord at the word go, and in fact the BJP senior leader started to address that public gathering at the political capital of Tamil Nadu with a cinematic connection in his speech. But a jovial leader vociferously acknowledged the day's significance right at the beginning for the people of the region by acknowledging the many martyrs who had given their lives for the cause of freedom. While that speech was underway, the rains, like he said, continued, but that was no spoil sport for the number of people who had gathered there in Madurai. But he'd chosen, this town, Madurai, compared to a Coimbatore or a Chennai that he had given a miss, as he is taking this yatra, the Rath Yatra, while he is en route to Kerala. Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad and Mr. L. Ganeshan were also seen on the dais, accompanying Mr. Advani on this very significant trip. Now, the senior leader did not leave out the burning issue of black money in the country, but he added that the 25 lakh crores could bring prosperity to the many Indian villages, and his aim clearly was to bring back that cash flow to India. And he did take out time to attack the current government and tagging it as dysfunctional, and said that the decision-making process has been paralyzed in the country. And he also attacked the Prime Minister and said that he was weaker than, he couldn't in fact think of a Prime Minister who was weaker than the current Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh. And striking a chord more or less with the people of the country, Mr. Advani questioned why there was a delay in a decision with regard to the Kudamkulam issue here in the state, urging that the state government be cautious. And he said, in fact, that a contract in binding should not override the safety of the people here.
Or why is nothing being done, no decision being taken about the nuclear plant that is to be set up at Kulam. The world over, mind you, where there were already existing nuclear plants, after the happenings in Japan, they immediately became cautious and they started directing that the nuclear plants in every country must be re-examined from the point of view of safety of the people, particularly those which were close to the ocean, particularly those which were close to the seas. Now this one is on the sea coast, and therefore we should be cautious right now. Commercial considerations or the fact that we have already agreed to a contract should not override the security and safety of the people of Tamil Nadu.
Well, let's just remind you that that was not the only issue that Mr. Dravani touched upon tonight. It, in fact, even stressing that the recent attacks on the Indian fishermen along the coastlines was a strategic problem for the entire country, and that is something that needs to be resolved urgently as it concerns the safety of the people as well. He also lauded the party's participation and the victory of some of the party's councillors and the newly elected members of to the post, in fact, this past local body elections, and said that he was very overwhelmed with the result. Moving on, as Chennaiites celebrated Diwali with fervour, the fire brigade personnel were on their toes attending scores of calls across the city. There have been 12 fire accidents. Our crime correspondent Salim reports on 2 major blazes. At 7:30 last evening, the fire control room lines came alive. A godown in St. Thomas Mount in which stationery is stocked was gutted. As printing ink can be quite inflammable, putting out the blaze wasn't easy. Even as 5 tenders were fighting the fire at this godown, on Mangali Amman Koil Street in St. Thomas Mount, a second blaze was reported from a building where garments are stocked on Devaraja Mudali Street in Paris Corner a short while later.
கீழே வந்து போகிறதுக்குள்ள அந்நேரத்துக்கு பக்கம் போக இருந்து எனக்கு தொண்டை கட்டிக்கிது நாய் வேறு 2-3 நாய் வளர்க்குறோம் அது எடுத்து இறங்கிறதுக்குள்ள எப்போ
நைட்டு 9 மணிலேருந்து எரிஞ்சிட்டு இருக்கு சார். இது தீபாவளி கிராக்கர்ஸ் கொளுத்தி உள்ளே போட்டாங்க போல இருக்கு.
The access to these buildings was quite like an obstacle course for the firemen. Reaching the spots on time and preventing the fire from spreading to adjoining buildings in these highly congested areas proved quite challenging. 11 fire tenders were pressed into service. Mercifully, no casualties have been reported. But the real cause of the fire is still unclear and will be investigated. In Chennai with Salim, Evelyn Matthew for NDTV Hindu. Let's now get you a quick roundup of the crime news in your city. This is a brand new segment for you today, Crime Files, with our correspondent Salim.
A young housewife was allegedly murdered by her husband in Chennai's Pallikarnai. The police say that the 28-year-old woman was found lying dead in a pool of blood at her residence. In Pallikarnai, they moved the body to the government hospital for post-mortem examination. Investigation revealed that the wife suspected the husband of having an illicit affair with another woman. After a verbal altercation, the husband hit the wife with an iron rod and the wife succumbed to the injuries. The police say they have launched a manhunt for the husband who is absconding. 45-year-old Devadas, head constable of Vadapalani police station, committed suicide at his residence in Madurai Vile. The police moved his body to the Kilpak Medical College Hospital for a post-mortem examination. After an autopsy, the body was handed over to his family members. The investigating officers say that the head constable committed suicide allegedly due to family problems. The police say that they didn't recover any suicide note. Burglars broke into a Tasmac shop in Ramapuram and decamped with 1.2 lakh rupees. The police say a special team has been formed to nab the offenders who are absconding. The Chennai police have claimed to have solved 5 cases of chain snatching and robbery after the arrest of 4 people who are in their 20s. 5 gold thali chains and 2 bikes used in the commissioning of the offence have been seized. During interrogation, the accused persons have confessed to the crime and police say that they targeted women walking alone on streets. All the 4 accused were involved in various cases of chain snatching, robbery and waylaying. All the 4 accused persons have been produced before a court and lodged at the Pudal prison.
Well, staying with the crime beat, post recent reports and complaints of misuse of credit and debit cards and the subsequent arrest of 3 gangs involved in such frauds, the Commissioner of Police, Mr. J.K. Tripathi, met bank officials, including representatives of the Reserve Bank of India, as well as some officials from the nationalized banks and other scheduled banks today. The interaction saw the exchange of methodologies that could be adopted to prevent recurrence of such frauds in the future. At the close of the deliberation, a request has also been sent out to the Reserve Bank of India to issue rules on the security aspects for strict adherence by the nationalized as well as the scheduled banks in the future. Now, banks in this meeting were advised to introduce a dynamic PIN number system in all of the ATMs along with chip-based cards to avoid duplication. Biometric identification will also be considered in addition to a Know Your Customer policy that could be extended to account holders. Now, the Diwali may have come and gone, but leaves us, as always, with that choking cough thanks to all of the smog and the dust that has risen from yesterday. The Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board has confirmed that the pollution levels here in the city have shot up much above the standard level. In fact, across the state, the air quality is worst hit in Chennai, standing at a pollution level of 251.36 micrograms per cubic meter of air, and that was at 6:15 last evening, but that rose to an unbelievable 1,423 micrograms per cubic meter of air. Do note that this is way higher than the accepted standards of 100 micrograms per cubic meter. It was in fact to curb this kind of a situation that the Supreme Court had directed long back that the public not be allowed to burst crackers after 10 in the nights. Moving on, this year around, the monsoons have the same old sorry tale to tell out on the streets, be it that annual picture of a waterlogged North Usman Road at T Nagar, or even that of people wading through the flooded streets of Velacheri. The rain gods, according to some, have arrived with a vengeance this year, bringing with them Chennai's bottomless potholes and endless traffic jams. But this is also the first assignment for the brand new mayor of the city to go on an inspection of the waterlogged areas, and we will have to wait and see if the promised quick redressal system will prove effective in the next days to come. But one aspect that many of us will have to take utmost care of is that health factor that is commonly plagued by the monsoon virus at a time when cases like malaria, typhoid, hepatitis, cholera, dysentery and viral fevers break out through the spines of the country, be it from villages to towns or even from cities to metropolis. Prevention is most definitely better than cure. While a sturdy umbrella and a faithful raincoat will keep you warm and dry from the lashing winds and the rains, there's another more sinister threat that you need to protect yourself and your family from: the dampness, the muck and stagnant pools of water, which are ideal breeding grounds for disease-causing microorganisms. In fact, here's Dr. Vijay Lakshmi from the Apollo Hospitals giving you the advice for the day.
Water has to be roll boiled for 3 minutes. Similarly, milk has to be roll boiled. Anything which is cooked fresh, heated, and you take it, you should not have any problems. Water and milk products are the major cause of all these foodborne viruses. With regards to the respiratory viruses, if somebody is going to sneeze next to you, somebody has a bad cough, just maintain the distance, and when you're sneezing, use tissue and throw it off and wash your hands immediately, because all these respiratory viruses just spread because you touch another person. You touch your nose and you touch the other person is going to develop it. So that is probably very, very important. And beyond all these things, we have the mosquito menace. Make sure that you don't have any water stagnating around your house. That's probably the basic cause for mosquito breeding. Once the mosquito breeds, it's going to stay inside your house, it's going to bite you, and you're going to get a lot of problems, including malaria, dengue, chikungunya, name it, you have it. So mosquito is one thing which you have to be really beware of. Beyond all these things, another thing is the shrubberies and other things which is next to the house. So avoid sitting on them, because we have something called as mites which can bite and produce a very dreaded infection called scrub typhus, which can again cause a lot of problems.
You're watching the news tonight right here on NDTV Hindu. Up ahead on the bulletin, this past Diwali was a test of loyalties for many with a sweet tooth, and looks like we have a clear winner, a favorite of the superstar himself.